Welcome to Cheat Sheet Tales, where secrets slip, lies unravel, and the truth always has a twist. Real stories, raw confessions, shocking betrayals. Drop a comment if you've ever caught a red flag too late. Now, let's get into today's tale. My parents secretly invited my sister to my graduation celebration. She mocked, "Didn't think you'd actually make it this time." I replied, "Didn't think you'd show your face after last semester's expulsion?" My dad gasped, "What expulsion?" Her smile faded instantly. "Didn't think you'd actually make it this time?" My sister smirked, clinking her champagne flute against mine with that smug little tilt of her head she's had since high school. Without blinking, I replied, "Didn't think you'd show your face after last semester's expulsion." Silence swallowed the room. My dad, stunned mid-toast, turned toward her. "What expulsion?" That's the moment everything changed again. I never thought my college graduation would bring on the kind of family meltdown I hadn't seen since my parents' divorce. But here I am, a week later, sitting in my new sublet in Chicago, with unopened moving boxes and a stomach that twists every time my phone buzzes. My name is Iris, I'm 24, and this all started long before the champagne glass hit my lips. Grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. My mom, Karen, ran a local bakery called Sugar Bell, and my dad, Michael, worked long hours as a logistics manager for a freight company. Our life looked simple from the outside: comfortable home, Sunday barbecues, family game nights. But what people didn't see was the dynamic behind closed doors, specifically the way my older sister Elise could do no wrong. Elise was the golden child from day one. Smart, pretty, bold, and talented in the kind of effortless way that turned heads and made teachers fawn. I, on the other hand, was the quiet one. Bookish, reserved, the easy kid, as my mom liked to say. That's probably why they forgot I needed attention. 2. Elise always got the spotlight. Tennis tournaments, weekend photography workshops, a European summer before senior year. I worked part-time at the local library. When I got a scholarship to the University of Michigan, they clapped politely. When Elise transferred to Michigan State, they drove her there and rented her a furnished apartment. Then the divorce happened. It hit my senior year of high school like a meteor. My dad found out my mom had been having an affair with a man who frequented her bakery, Spencer, a local contractor with a tan and a Range Rover. Elise picked sides immediately. She told Dad to grow up and move on, and moved in with Mom like it was no big deal. I stayed mostly with Dad, not out of resentment toward Mom, but because she barely noticed when I stopped coming around. What followed were years of half-hearted texts and surface-level check-ins. Holidays split awkwardly. My mom tried to smooth things over, but it was always for show. Elise would only ever reach out when she needed something. A recommendation, a +1, money. During college, we barely interacted. Elise had changed majors 3 times, transferred again, and ended up at a private arts college in Chicago. By junior year or so, she said she'd post curated photos on Instagram from campus and galleries, but I always felt like something was off. I didn't pry. I figured whatever mess she was in wasn't my business, until it became mine. Graduation was supposed to be my moment. After everything I pushed through, working nights at the library desk, fighting burnout, surviving panic attacks, I finally made it. I wasn't planning a big celebration. I wanted something small and meaningful, so I invited my dad, a few close friends, and 2 professors I admired. We booked a private room at Weber in Ann Arbor for a post-ceremony dinner. I asked Dad if he thought we should tell Mom. He said he'd handle it. What I didn't know was that handling it meant sending her an invitation behind my back, and worse, he didn't tell me Elise was coming too. When I walked into the room that evening, I froze. There she was, sitting at the farm table, wine glass in hand, laughing with my mom like it was her event. I thought maybe I could ignore it, pretend the tension wasn't there. But then she walked up to me during the toast, leaned in, and hit me with that line. "Didn't think you'd actually make it this time." It wasn't just a joke, it was a dig. Elise always had a way of framing her jabs in silk and lace, sounding playful but designed to sting. She didn't think I had the grit to finish college. She never said it out loud, but I knew she believed it. That's when the words slipped out. I didn't plan them. I wasn't trying to ruin anything. But 4 years of hurt, resentment, and watching her get away with everything had reached a boiling point. Didn't think you'd show your face after last semester's expulsion. The room dropped into silence. I watched my dad freeze, his fork halfway to his mouth. "What expulsion?" he asked slowly, looking at her, not me. Elise turned white. She didn't say a word. Mom choked on her wine and stammered something about it being a misunderstanding, but it was too late. The secret was out. Apparently, Elise had been expelled in the fall for plagiarism. She'd submitted an entire portfolio that didn't belong to her. The school launched an investigation and quietly removed her from the program. She had been living with my mom ever since, pretending to attend virtual classes and using Instagram to fake a normal student life, and my mom knew. She knew and didn't tell anyone. I hadn't meant to expose it like that, but once I did, I couldn't take it back. Elise stormed out. She slipped out the back of the restaurant while everyone was still processing what had just happened. Mom left 20 minutes later, glaring at me like I'd committed a crime. My dad stayed, sitting across from me with this stunned look on his face. He said quietly, "Why didn't anyone tell me?" I didn't have an answer for that. I just said, "Because she knew what it would do to you." He nodded slowly and looked down at his plate. "You didn't have to say it like that." Maybe he was right, but at that moment, I felt like I had no other choice. Elise had been walking through life shielded from consequences. Someone had to pop the bubble. Since then, my phone hasn't stopped buzzing. My mom sent me a dozen texts, all variations of, "How could you?" And, "That wasn't your truth to tell." Elise finally messaged me too. She didn't apologize. She just said I'd ruined her chance to explain things in her own time. And Dad? Well, he's not angry, but he's definitely hurt. He's been quiet, thoughtful, and me? I'm in this weird limbo. I didn't do it for revenge. I didn't want to hurt anyone. But I'm not sorry either. I'm just tired of swallowing things to keep the peace, especially when that peace was built on lies. Still, I keep wondering, did I go too far? Am I justified in what I did? Or did I just blow up years of fragile progress between all of us for one moment of honesty? And if telling the truth leaves you lonelier than the lie, was it really worth it? The days that followed were quiet, in a way that felt almost unnatural. I moved to Chicago 2 days after graduation. I had accepted a research assistantship at Northwestern, working under a professor who specialized in neuroengineering. It was the kind of opportunity I'd dreamed about for years, but it felt strangely muted. Now, I unpacked my things in silence. The usual joy of settling into a new apartment, of putting books on a shelf, making my first grocery run, even the scent of fresh laundry. None of it felt like victory, just the next thing. What stayed with me wasn't the awkward dinner or the look on Elise's face. It was the sound of my dad's voice, quieter than usual, asking, "Why didn't anyone tell me?" He sounded betrayed, not angry, but like something inside him had bent the wrong way. And now all I could do was wait for what? I wasn't sure. A call, an apology, a family group text where someone pretends like nothing happened. None of it came. A week after moving in, I finally replied to Elise's message. "You've had all the time in the world to explain things. You just never thought you'd have to." She didn't respond. I didn't expect her to. That's always been our pattern. She creates the mess. I end up holding it, and then she disappears until the dust settles. My mom tried to call me the next evening. I let it ring. Then came the follow-up text. "I know you were hurt, but that wasn't the way to handle it." No acknowledgement of the years she spent shielding Elise. No apology for keeping me in the dark. No responsibility for the tension she actively contributed to, just judgment. And that's what stung the most. My mother had always been protective of Elise, even when it meant turning a blind eye to things she shouldn't have. The affair, the lies, the way Elise tore me down over and over again. She made excuses. She's under a lot of pressure. She's just lashing out. She didn't mean it like that. What about me? What pressure was I under when I worked 3 jobs to stay in school? When I sat alone in dorm rooms during holidays because I didn't want to choose between them? What excuse did I get? I thought about writing her back. I even drafted a message, something along the lines of, maybe if you'd handled things back then. I wouldn't have had to, but I deleted it. I didn't want another hollow exchange. I wanted something real, and I didn't think she was capable of giving that to me right now. Instead, I poured myself into my new job. The lab became a safe place. Data didn't lie. Equations didn't twist meaning. And my supervisor, Dr. Patel, was tough but fair. She respected boundaries, and she noticed things. She asked if I was settling in okay, if I needed time off to handle family stuff. I lied and said everything was fine. It felt easier than explaining the emotional minefield I'd walked into. Then, 2 weeks after the incident, my dad called. I nearly dropped my phone when his name lit up the screen. "Iris," he said, his voice soft. "Hey, Dad." A long pause stretched between us. I wanted to say I've been thinking a lot about what happened, about everything. I waited, unsure of what was coming next. "You were right," he said. "I should have told you. Your mom and I had invited Elise. I didn't know about the expulsion, I swear, but I wanted us all together again, even if it was just for a night." I could hear the defeat in his voice. It made me want to hug him and scream all at once. "She humiliated you," he added, "and you didn't start that. You just finished it." I sat down at my kitchen table, blinking back tears. "I'm not mad," he continued. "Just sad that it had to come to this, that the 4 of us can't be in the same room without something breaking." I didn't know what to say to that. He wasn't wrong. "I love you, Tess," he said after a pause. "And I'm proud of you, not just for graduating, but for standing your ground." That was the first time anyone had said it out loud. We talked a little. Longer after that, about his new condo, my job, whether I'd gotten the apartment fully unpacked yet. It felt like slowly, gently, we were finding our way back to each other. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. A few days later, I got a handwritten letter in the mail from Elise. It wasn't long, just 2 pages, but the fact that she put pen to paper at all made me stop in my tracks. She didn't start with "I'm sorry." Instead, she wrote, "I don't know if you realize how much pressure I've felt all my life to be perfect, and I know you hate hearing that because you were the one always pushed aside. I don't know if I did what I did out of fear or laziness or pride, maybe all 3, but when you said that in front of everyone, I felt the floor fall out from under me because I knew I deserved it. I just never expected it from you." She didn't deny the expulsion. She admitted to faking her coursework. She even admitted that Mom helped her cover it up because she couldn't handle another failure in the family. That line hit me the hardest. Failure in the family. That's how we'd been measured all along, by outcomes, by appearances, by who could keep it all together on the outside. No one cared who was falling apart inside. She ended the letter with something I never expected. "You didn't ruin my life. You forced me to look at it, and I guess I should thank you for that." There was no promise to do better, no asking for forgiveness, but maybe that made it more honest than anything she'd said in years. I haven't written her back yet. I don't know if I will. There's still a part of me that doesn't trust her intentions, and another part that misses the sister I thought I had when we were little, before everything got complicated. I haven't told Mom about the letter. I don't think I want to. Not yet. There's a strange quiet in my life now. Not peace exactly, but space. Space to think, to breathe, to figure out what kind of relationships I want to salvage and what ones I'm okay letting drift away. Sometimes I wonder if families are supposed to break like this, if everyone goes through a version of this story, if someday years from now, Elise and I will sit down over coffee and laugh about the absurdity of it all. But not now. For now, I'm learning how to be okay without the fantasy of a whole, perfect family, just a real one. Broken, flawed, maybe a little toxic, but real. And for the first time in a long time, I'm not afraid of the silence that comes with that. I sat with Elise's letter for a few days, rereading it during quiet mornings before work, letting every word settle in a little deeper each time. There was no dramatic breakthrough, no sudden well of forgiveness bubbling up inside me, just a kind of recognition. She had said something real for once. That was new. But it didn't mean I owed her anything. Life went on. I buried myself in lab work, volunteered for a few extra projects, and slowly I started sleeping better. My dad and I talked more often. He visited Chicago a couple of weekends after the call, and we went to a Cubs game, just the two of us. I hadn't seen him that relaxed in years. We didn't talk about Elise or Mom. We just laughed, drank warm beer, and ate overpriced hot dogs. And it was perfect. About a month later, I got a group text from my mother family dinner next Sunday at my place. I'd like everyone there. Everyone meant Elise Tui stared at it for a long time, thumb hovering over the screen. I almost ignored it completely. But something in me shifted not out of guilt, not even an obligation, but curiosity. I wanted to see what this everyone would look like now that all the masks were off. So I responded, sure. My dad texted me separately almost immediately. Are you sure? Yeah, let's see what happens. The dinner was awkward from the moment I stepped into my mom's house. It was the same house I grew up in, but it felt smaller now, tighter, claustrophobic, with unspoken words. Elise was already there, sitting in the kitchen with a glass of water. Not wine. She looked different, smaller somehow. Like the weight of her choices was catching up. No makeup, no performative grin, no dramatic outfit, just jeans and a plain Tish gave me a small nod. I nodded back. My mom was bustling around, putting dishes on the table like she was trying to summon a normally none of us felt. We sat down, me, Dad, Elise, and Mom, the first dinner with all four of us in years. The conversation started shallow work updates, whether my dad's fantasy football league. No one mentioned what had happened until dessert. Mom brought out a peach cobbler. Her famous one, she placed it in the center of the table with a proud little smile, just like old times, she said. And I looked at her. Really looked. She wanted this so badly, this illusion of unity. But it wasn't for us. It was for her to erase what she couldn't face. Are we just going to pretend everything's okay? Now, I asked. Setting down my fork, the room went still, because if we are, I can leave. I don't need a cobbler to replace an apology. Elise stared at her plate. My dad looked tired but calm. Mom blinked at me. Iris, I'm trying to do ignore what happened. Sweep it under the rug like we always do. Elise finally spoke. Tess, don't know. I turned to her. You lied for months, you used Mom to cover it up, and you mocked me on one of the biggest nights of my life. That wasn't just one mistake, that was a choice. She looked up at me, face flushed. I didn't come here to fight. I didn't either. I came here for the truth and maybe some accountability, Mom interjected. We're not perfect. Families aren't perfect. I smiled tightly. Then maybe it's time we stop pretending. We are. Elise pushed her chair back, hands in her lap. You want accountability? Fine, I'll give it to you. She looked at Dad. I forged a transcript. That's how I stayed at that school as long as I did. It wasn't just one expulsion. It was two, first for plagiarism, then for falsifying academic records. Dad's face dropped, and I let Mom help me hide it because I didn't know what else to do. You could have heard a pin drop. I'm getting a job. She continued, a real one. Not influencer garbage, not tutoring rich kids in fake SAT prep. I'm working as a cashier at a bookstore downtown, and I'm enrolling in community college next semester, not Art General Ed, and I'm paying for it myself. That was the moment, that was when I knew she wasn't playing a game anymore. Her voice was flat, almost resentful, but it was honest. And why should we believe that? Dad asked gently. You shouldn't, she said. Not yet. That landed hard, and I realized something then. The real revenge wasn't what I said at graduation. It wasn't blowing up the secret or making her squirm. Was this moment watching her have to face the truth stripped of excuses, humble, small humans. It was watching my mother sit there, eyes glistening, realizing that shielding one daughter had cost her the other, that she couldn't bake enough cobblers to mend the silence that now stretched between us. That night, I didn't storm out. I didn't argue. I stayed. I ate the peach cobbler. I talked to my dad about work. I watched Elise quietly clear the dishes. I didn't forgive, not yet, but I left on my own terms with dignity, with truth on my side. And that was enough. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the forgotten sister. I wasn't a side character in someone else's chaos. I was the woman who made it through with scars and all. That was the ending I gave myself, and honestly, it was satisfying. It was satisfying.